I've spent most of my life simply living it. Head down, foot down, fast lane. Only later did I slow down enough to wonder what any of it had actually meant, or had I noticed the scenery that was flashing before my eyes at the time. The same goes for the lives that were happening around me. We can be quick to form opinions about people, about moments, about stories we're convinced we already know. Everyone carries chapters of books that we've never read, plot twists they don't share, backstories that we couldn't even guess if we had a map. And this podcast came to light really with a mildly uncomfortable question that I had to ask myself. How can I hope to understand anybody's story if I didn't really understand my own? So this is me revisiting an earlier version of me. I don't understand fully why the younger me thought it prudent to document life back then through notes and scribbles and songs and diaries and barn jam recordings and pub recordings, and it's basically a time capsule of delightful chaos to unpick. But I'm grateful he did, because it's opened a door maybe I always sensed was there, but somehow managed to ignore. Or maybe I just chose to walk straight past with headphones on. So 35 odd years later, I'm glad that there is something to go back to, some anchors. And that's what I'll try and find over coming months, through those songs, through those notes, through those journeys I took then, because I don't recall all of them, but there are little bits that will help me retrace those steps. So this is my life again. Chapter 1, Wood for the Trees. So chapter 1. It's easy to go back to the first time I picked up a keyboard, and probably regretted it, because listening back to some of those early recordings, well, let's just say it's an acquired taste. I don't know why. From the very moment I played around, I was recording something, and it's, yeah, an acquired taste. However, to go back to where I wanted to start, probably need to go back to the first song that I ever recorded. Now, we're going back to 1992, 21-year-old me, possibly. And this was after a time of personal trauma through early years that we won't go into now. But having come out the other side of that, there were times when you felt you couldn't see the wood for the trees. 13s, 14s, to then 17s, going through loss of friends, through accidents and illness and a number of other tough times. And I think there are parts of that where you don't feel you can see the wood for the trees. Everything is just intense, it's overpowering, and you don't understand it back then. And I get that now. I still don't understand it 30, 40 years later, because it happened and it carries you along a wave of despair and sadness and grief, and you do get through these things. You don't always understand how you get through them, and I think that's the key, just knowing that somehow you will get through. So without dwelling on that, that was everything was too much. It was, couldn't see beyond, and I think that's where that song came from, going back to that anchor then of kind of can't see which way to go now. And the wood for the tree was, I visited a tree, I sat under a tree, I talked to a tree. I believed that tree wanted my company as much as I needed the tree's company. And you go through these crazy notions back then, but we still talk to trees now, and I think it's important. There's a whole new debate. However, I go back to 92, 94 for the ton of time that we started writing this, or I started to the point we recorded it in the shed in Cheddar. Joe's dad, Tony Ward, kindly lent us his shed and his 4-track, and I had the help of a good friend of mine then to put it all together and play some bass on it and lay some ideas down. But it started out as an acoustic track, so we need to go back to the earlier version that I recorded. Have a listen to it, because it's where it started.
Sometimes I feel like I'm across the I find myself in never when I that you needed me. Sometimes I know it's the other way.
I'm the one who's crying out and the world around becomes too loud. That was... I'm the one who's crying when my head and the world around becomes too loud. Now that was an earlier version. That was probably the first time I'd ever played it in front of people. Actually, I remember sitting in my flat in Cheddar, flat above the Market Cross, and that's where that song started out. It had been bubbling away. I just had it as a afterthought, really. And then one night we just jammed and we played, and that came out. And that's where it started. Some months later, we had the chance to take it into the studio and the shed, which was just beautiful because it was my first foray into recording anything. I'd never wanted to do it really, other than it just happened. And somebody said, oh, come on, we'll record it, we'll do this, we'll do that. And I was grateful that we had the chance and the opportunity, and the shed was there. And Joe's dad said, you know, you can use it, and Joe Ward. And it was a beautiful place. And I remember so many amazing weekends there, just recording these 6 or 7 tracks from the Big Bouncy Bubble Jam, which was my first cassette. That's where everything kind of really started, I suppose, and it was a bit of fun. It was never destined to be a groundbreaking album, so let's have a look for Bubble. First jam, there we go. First tape cover is there, and that was the Big Bouncy Bubble bus, and the bus that I used to live in. So we had the Wood for the Tree first track, and then a number of songs beyond that, which we'll come on to. That's really where the Big Bouncy Bubble Bus came from. That was my home for a while, the Bubble Bus. There it was, the Dodge, the Comet Dodge. I wish I could see a number plate, because I'd love to know if it's still in existence. Sadly, these things have gone. Maybe that's another part of the journey that I'll discover. It's funny, again, going back to that, about not fully understanding life or it all happening around you. I don't remember where I bought the van from. I don't remember where it went beyond living in it. I lived in it, I drove it, I went around the country in it. It's just bizarre. Then you miss out those little moments of life. And again, that's all part of my journey into discovering me and festivals and life, and going back to that, the selling of jewellery. I made jewellery, I then up in the caravan in the van, and then took that on to sell and move on festival to festival. But it's that whole sequence of events I don't fully connect with and see how it all came to be, but it did, and I've got documented evidence to show that it did, and that's where I am now. So we then had the chance to take this to the next level, the studio, the shed, the recording, the session. And this is it. This is what we came up with Chris playing bass on this, gave it some keys, and this was the track.
Sometimes it feels like I'm at the mercy of the tree. I find myself beneath her when I feel she's leading me. And sometimes I know it's the other way around. I am the one who's calling out when the wild comes through.
So thank you, Chris, for giving that life, and that became the first track of the album, Wood for the Tree. And yeah, I spoke to the tree many times. I still wander over there from time to time. It's still there, and when the world inside your head becomes too loud, that was my space to go and just chat and sit and be. So that was where it was then. And this journey is about bringing these songs back into a new form. So using, and I've called the project Fragile Reimagined, artificially intelligent, intelligently artificial, doesn't matter which way around. We've always used technology and artificial tweaks to give music that edge, to give it something. This is a different something now, and it creates things, again, covered some of that in the early parts. If you give it a song and you give it instruction and you give it a heart and you let it create from what you already have, I think artificial intelligence software can give you an idea of what it could be in the future if you wanted to take it as a band, as an artist. For me, this is just about creating something that lifts it again, takes it to another level and polishes it slightly. And it's never going to be anything other than what it is. Where AI can help, I think, is give ideas beyond ideas. But we already have the songs, the formats, the structure, the keys, the chords. I don't know what they all are. As I said, they were all back in the day. So to do that, we have to visit and add our own song. So we're going to give it the song that it needs here, and this is Wood for the Tree. And we're going to give it the Bubble Jam version to work with, and it will then create a song, 3 minutes and 52 seconds of song. And we're going to ask it to cover that song, not extend a song or not create something from nothing. And I think that's AI argument, that you have nothing and say, make me a song about my dancing cat in the winter, and it's going to do that. And it's that, I think, is wrong, and that's not to get into that part, that's my own personal opinion. But where you have a backbone, a heart of something, I think this is where AI can help. Not always, as you may find out in a second. So we have the track, short 2-bar intro. I've laid some of this out already. This is 92-94, additional keys, crisp binding, Wood for the Trees. And I'm gonna let this software keep those lyrics. The style of the song, you give it the style. I've already created a few delicate 12-string guitar. I want it to create and keep male vocals. The style is matching your style. Now the style is what we give it in a second. I'm going to give it warm acoustic 12-string guitar shortly. Images are there. Wood for the Tree. Wood for the Trees I call this because this is reinvented, reimagined. I will go through the ones that are closest resembling my vocal structure, which was limited back then. So once I've done all that, I've got 4 or 5 different working versions. I'll play out with the version that I fell in love with, and that resembles more what I was hoping for back then. Well, I wasn't hoping for anything back then, but what I now take as the back then recording, what I feel now, 35 years later. This is the process of a very simple early journey into Wood for the Tree. Why the mix, the mess of the young me. The problem with AI created music is that if you don't give it the absolute correct instruction, it will think it knows what you want. We'll go back to the original version of Wood for the Tree, and this was the version we did in the shed. And we want to keep it sparse and empty, lost. And we want to keep it with its feel. And there's a chugging guitar just coming in there. Well, of sorts. So that was the initial version, and it comes out with, as I said, you feed this into AI, if you don't give it the right instruction, this is what you get. Didn't ask for slide guitar. It's not what I want. So it's giving it something extra, but not necessarily what you need. I played around with a few options and bought a few versions of it, and I settled on one which retained its feel, and it retained its feel because of the detail that you give it. And if I go to this one here, which I liked, so this was a delicate 12-string, this is the version I've chosen. So there are a few that took those original finger-picked notes, the chords that start the song, and use it as its bass, and then tries to match the vocals. Back then, although it's picking up on some pretty bad out of tune variations. However, I think it's done a great job of this, and it's pulled it together in everything I wanted it to be, with a bit more lift, but retaining the original feel. So I'm going to play out with this and end the chapter here. The chapter is really, it's not closure, because this is where it all opened. This is where it kind of started. And after a very confusing few late teen years, early teen, late teens, there was still a lot of mess going on in my own life and head, and that went back to the early younger child trauma into parents, divorce, the separation, the split of the family, and then that then fed into the 16, 17-year-old me and the loss of the friends that we had back then, which affected so many of us in so many ways, and I know there's a lot of people that will relate to this. It knocks you for 6, they say. Actually, it knocks you for your life. It never goes away. There are dates in my head of every year that I know exactly where I was that day, and always remember those days. And there are days that they're the unpleasant anchors that are always there. But it's important to me to hold those days very close, because they symbolise great friendships and lives that are no longer here. So I kind of live part of that for them, if that makes any sense. And that will never go away. As I said to you, that will be to the day I die, that I will carry those days and those memories and those lives with me. But this was that kind of whole wood for the tree, can't see where I'm going, can't see why I'm here, can't see where I've come from, can't see ahead of me. And to get out of that, I just found a tree and sat and talked and did nothing, and probably spent hours there chatting randomly to myself. If ever I wasn't around, I was probably by the tree. Anyway, so wood for the tree, and this closes that chapter. As I said, emotions are, as I said earlier, they're a blend. They create a life arc. They all feed into different parts of life, and they will come and go. And there may be some that are intrinsically linked that cross over into different chapters in your life. And of course they're going to. They make you who you are. I know there's going to be parts that feed back into that, and I'll see them again. But anyway, to close the chapter, this is the version that means the most to me, from my early scratchings, the little jam in front of people in an old flat, to the final recording in Tony's shed on the 4-track. Which then led to the Bubble Jam cassette being, well, a few people still have it apparently, bizarrely enough. So thank you for that, because I do get messages from time to time saying, oh, I found this, or I've listened to this. And that means a lot anyway, because it was never set out for that. It was just a bit of fun. But to know that it still exists, and there are a few, somebody sent me this the other day, actually, Paul Flanagan. Thank you for that, because you've still got both of them. And that means a hell of a lot. So anyway, I'm going to play out with the version that I selected, and the one that fits more in line with what I wanted to achieve at the time and what it is now.
Sometimes it feels like I'm at the mercy of the tree. I find myself beneath her when I feel she's needing me. And yes, sometimes I know it's the other way around, and I'm the one who's calling out when the world around becomes too loud. Ooh, da, 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 da. And as I watch you through the evening, I realize this is where I'll always be. As the clouds slip past, I feel a sudden radiance, and the people below on the hillside cannot see. Sometimes it feels like I'm at the mercy of the tree. I find myself beneath her when I feel she's needing me. And yes, sometimes I know it's the other way around, and I'm the one who's calling out when the world around becomes too loud. Ooh, da, da, da. Sometimes it feels like I'm at the mercy of the tree. I find myself beneath her when I feel she's needing me. And sometimes I know it's the other way around, and I'm the one who's calling out when the world outside becomes too loud. When the world inside my head becomes too loud. When the world inside my As the clouds slip past, I feel sudden radiance, and the people below on the hillside cannot see. And as the clouds drift past, I feel sudden radiance, and the people below on the hillside cannot see. Sometimes it feels like I'm at the mercy of the tree.
It's hit every part that I wanted to hit in delivery of the song, the kind of where the original, where it came from, the softness of it, just the acoustic. It feels like it's retained Chris's bass flavours from back then, because it's a soft rolling bass that he laid down back in the day. And it hasn't overpowered it with some slight guitars and drums. It feels like where I started with an acoustic guitar and didgeridoos, had a few of those that I took to the tree quite a lot. Couldn't ever play it brilliantly, but I loved the sound it made. And a djembe drum, which is over in the corner of the studio here. And that retains that kind of slow djembe feel within that. So I'm really happy with the level that it's picked up from the original song. It hasn't gone off on a tangent and tried to create something that isn't there. It's used what it heard, it learnt from it, and reimagined something for me. That's a special place to open the chapters. And as I said, I know they'll feed into each other at different parts. For now, I'm happy with chapter 1. And that's not taking AI and letting it run wild. It's harnessing parts of it to build on what's already there. And that's the AI that I love. And I think that's where it's going to work, personally. But there'll be other variations of AI as it moves forward through the years. And this is very early days. This is from where this started 4 or 5 years ago to the version, I mean, we're using version 5 of Suno here. It started out its early years, 1, 2, 3, 4, 4.5, and it's now 5. What version 10 will bring in terms of the voices, the ability of the software to hear and learn and bring to the table those elements. It's quite a scary process that we're all in the middle of at the moment, with AI suddenly appearing. It hasn't suddenly appeared out of nowhere. It's been there a while. We just didn't use it or see it because it wasn't available in the way that it is now. But this is a journey that will be aided by tools, as they always have been. It's how you use those tools, and if you let it run away with itself and create things that aren't actually there, then I think that's the wrong way to use it. But to take something that's already there, revisit, reimagine, I think that's going to be good for many, many people, and that's why I think it's a useful tool. Anyway, let's not talk too much about AI. This is the journey. This is your life again. This is my life again. And that was chapter 1, Wood for the Tree. Thank you for being part of the journey, and I hope to see you in chapter 2. And I think what we're going to do to start with is we're going to take the big bouncy bubble jam in its entirety, and these will be chapters. So the second chapter will be I Must Be Dreaming. I've already done some versions of that outside of the original ones, 2007 and 2020 in lockdown. I think I revisited that one. And then the big bouncy bubble bus on Pingaloo Parade, Figure with a Frown, You Were a Flower, 11 years, the Cheddar Forecast, the bubble bus reprise. Probably won't need to do that. Once we've done the bubble bus once, that may be enough. Cheddar Forecast in its new version could be interesting. Let's see what AI can bring to that table. Anyway, thank you for being part of the journey, and I'll see you in chapter 2 for I Must Be Dreaming. Part of This Is Your Life Again.
I see